Hello, everyone. My name is Lindsay Watson. I am the host today for Somos Lehigh Valley, presented by the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Are you a content creator? Do you want to be one? Maybe you have a YouTube channel, an Instagram, a Facebook, a TikTok. Maybe you have a great idea for a new channel, but you don't have the time, the equipment, or the space. Well, we have a solution for you. Welcome to Master Studios. Here at Master Studios, you have everything you need. Lights, cameras, microphones, and a fully equipped set ready for you to start creating. And the best part is that you don't have to do it alone. Our professional team is here to help. All you have to do is bring your ideas. We have over 10 unique studio sets for you to choose the right one for your content. Whether you need a modern talk show vibe, a sleek podcast setting, or a dynamic background video, we got you covered. You want to edit your own video? No problem. We'll record it and give you the files. You want us to produce your videos? We got you. We got graphics, lower thirds, seamless cuts. We'll make sure your video stands out. Master Studios is right here in downtown Allentown, and we are waiting for you. Are you ready to turn that content idea into a reality? Well, check out our website, mstudiogroup.com.
And we're back. Welcome, everyone. This is Somos Lehigh Valley. I have the privilege and honor of being in the host seat today. While I get the opportunity to talk with AJ and interview him, I just want to first and foremost acknowledge that you've done a tremendous, amazing, wonderful job here with Somos Lehigh Valley. And I asked you, 2-3 years ago, I think, if you'd ever been interviewed, and you said no.
Yeah, I haven't had a full sit-down interview, so I'm really thankful that you accepted the invitation to do this exit interview with me, I guess we'll call it, because after 3 years, I'm finally stepping away from being the chair of the chamber. Yeah. It's been a great time, but I'm looking forward to a great conversation.
Yeah, so you're in the hot seat, not too hot, but this is
lukewarm.
It's a lukewarm, right?
I'm good with that.
Yeah, no, and I knew you would be. But when I get a chance to ask anyone who typically asks the questions, I like to make sure it's substantive and valuable, right? Yeah. So let's lean into the substance, because what you've built in partnership with the Chamber through Somos Lehigh Valley and so many other things has been really impactful to the Lehigh Valley community, the Latino community and the outer community. So can we talk a little bit about how many shows have you recorded? How many seasons have you had? And what are maybe your top 2 takeaways from this podcast?
Yeah, well, I can't take all the credit.
Right.
I think that part of this is really, we had a really good team of folks around us, providing us with different ideas. And when we rebranded the chamber and went with the Somos Familia slogan, one of the things that we were thinking about is how can we make membership something that's more valuable to the folks who are part of the Hispanic Chamber. And so one of the things that we thought about is exposure. At the time, we decided, hey, why don't we try putting together a podcast for radio? And we worked with La Mega at the time. Mm-hmm. But as time went by, we saw that video was really the place where we were probably best positioned because there was more visibility.
Yeah.
And so we decided to go with the video podcast. We also started in Spanish. Just doing our studies and doing our homework, we realized that, the second, third generation Latino really prefers to consume content in English, so we made the decision to switch over to English. We'll do a Spanish episode every now and then.
Yeah.
But I think that as part of this process, we have learned a lot about the Latino community and what it is that really brings us together. It's not specifically language.
Yeah.
And it's not specifically one topic over the other, but food is always a part of it.
Better be.
And there are certain, cultural aspects of togetherness,
Yeah.
which I think feeds right into the Somos Familia theme.
So somos, we. I think
We are.
We are. Thank you. See, this is why I love my Latino brothers and sisters, my Hispanic community. Y'all know how I feel about you, okay? So you've mentioned the word we more than any other word based off what you just said. Can you talk a little bit about the we behind the structure? I know you said you didn't do this alone. So who else has been a part of this journey with you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we has been so central to everything we've done in the past 3 years.
Yeah.
We've had a great board of folks, that have helped to put this together. As I think about some of the key players, Joe Barrios is definitely one of them. He was our marketing guy and really came up with the idea of using that Somos Familia theme. I think he stole some of it from Nike because they had a sneaker line. They had a Somos Familia sneaker line.
They
the idea, yeah, for a while. So at the next gala, I may just have to rock the Somos Familia sneakers.
Please rock the sneakers and let's edit it from stole to inspired by. I don't know how much of the budget y'all got for any potential response. So we'll just say inspired by.
Yeah,
That's great. Well, shout out
guess,
to Joe.
Just to talk about your question more in depth, I think you have to take a step back. Prior to me becoming board chair, we had Ismael Arcelay was the board chair.
Okay.
And Ismael is, from the school of Latinos that were in the Valley for 30, 40 years plus.
Long time, yeah.
We had a lot of board members who were actually born in the Lehigh Valley. And so one of the significant things that happened as Ismael handed the torch off to me is that suddenly we had a lot of board members who were not necessarily born in the Valley or haven't been in the Valley for a long time. We have a lot of New Yorkers that are transplanted, like myself.
Yeah.
Folks that have come from the Dominican Republic, that have come from other parts of the country.
Yeah.
And so I think that part of the benefit from that is that we've been able to see the Lehigh Valley through different eyes.
Okay.
Kind of seeing the Lehigh Valley as a place, not where I was born here and, I was kind of, this is all I've known.
Yeah.
But more like, hey, this is a place that I came to because I saw opportunity and I found community. And so I think that when you look at what we've built with the Hispanic Chamber,
Yeah.
family is part of it, but that when you dig deeper, really it's all about community, people finding that sense of connection.
Right, and you've just described a couple of different, excuse me, I'll say that again. You just described a couple of different types of communities. So you have the community folks who have been here for decades, right, raised their kids and their grandkids and have a presence and understanding of what the Valley was, leaning to what it is.
Yeah.
And then you've got a whole new generation of folks moving in, really contributing to what the Lehigh Valley is becoming.
Yeah.
Right, and it sounds like you were right at the precipice of that. So you got a chance to take ownership of helping to set the tone for what community would look like through Somos Lehigh Valley and the Chamber. So you've done an amazing job. I see you online. I see you recognize you're hosting, you're speaking, you're keynoting, you're moderating, you're connecting, all of the things. Let's talk a little bit about your role as chair of the board of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I know that you are going to be stepping down. You've fulfilled your term, and we have some amazing new leadership coming up. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got Yamelisa and Stephanie, who have been in the co-vice chair role for the last year. Yamelisa obviously is from the Lehigh Valley. She's been here for a long time. People remember seeing her young, traveling up and down with her mom, who covered the Lehigh Valley through a magazine that she owns. And Stephanie's mother has been a banker for a long time. So both of them have kind of followed in the paths of their moms. Which has been really interesting. And with both of them, I kind of see, the answer to a question that someone asked several years back.
Ooh, what was it? Is this part of the lukewarm hot to hot seat? What do we
Yeah,
got?
yeah. So when I first came on as board chair, I went to my first PA Latino convention, which was right here in Allentown.
In Allentown, yeah.
And I was part of a discussion panel about inclusivity.
Okay.
And one of the questions that was asked is, well, what is the Hispanic Chamber doing about promoting female leadership? And I said, well, we're bringing board members along, and we're bringing people in that, are very influential in their communities. And I'll never forget that the woman who was asking the question specifically pointed to me and she said, no, what are you doing about promoting female leadership? So I think that at that moment, the bug was kind of born, to really look at how we answer that question.
Yeah.
And I feel that both Yamelisa and Stephanie are leaders. So it's not like you have to look around and prop them up.
Yeah.
They are leaders in their own right.
Yeah.
And they've demonstrated that over the years. They've demonstrated in the past year in just stepping up and being more involved on our executive team with the chamber. So I'm just so excited to see what they're going to continue to do. I kind of feel like a proud dad to a certain extent, but more like an uncle. Because I'm
getting that Theo vibe.
I'm not that old.
Yeah, right.
But I'm a lot of people ask me, like, how do you feel about stepping aside? And honestly, I feel excited.
Yeah.
Because I see who's taking over the reins.
Yeah, and I mean, there's stepping aside, AJ, right? And then there's also passing the torch. So outside looking in, you're passing the torch, right, to two phenomenal leaders who are going to take what you've done and then also
and they
make
still
it
have a
their
great
own.
board, behind them. So
I look forward to seeing what lies ahead. Okay, so we've got our foundations laid for the show, the chamber, all of these amazing guests. I want to ask you what your favorite episode was, but you're probably, because you're not a biased kind of person, you're
I
not
have a
going to
favorite.
say. You do?
Yeah.
What you got?
I got a favorite
Who was
episode.
your favorite interviewee?
My favorite episode was the episode with the owners of Okoa Beauty.
Of course, that was
Yeah.
amazing. That to me was more like a
It
documentary.
was like kind of like a one-off, right? It felt that way.
That won't the same as the others.
And you
now.
were there too.
I was in the cut.
We had a studio audience, and
Yeah.
everybody was asking questions. But I feel like the reason why that was my favorite is because even though I don't have a lot of hair and I couldn't benefit from the products, I really related to the story.
Yes.
There were a lot of things in their story, especially when they talked about assimilating, coming to a new country,
Yeah.
and how, at first it was assimilating with hair,
Yeah.
but then it was also assimilating with a language and
Yeah.
with a culture.
Yeah.
And again, people who came to the United States and went somewhere and didn't find that sense of community,
Yeah.
but then came to Pennsylvania, came to the Lehigh Valley, came to Berks County,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden they did find that community, and just the importance of just finding your tribe,
Yeah.
and the role that plays in success. I think that it speaks volumes
Yeah.
above the business, which they've been very successful business people,
Mm-hmm.
but there's lessons there that we can extract just for ourselves in terms of living in community.
Yeah, and that was an amazing setup. So for everyone listening, you want to talk a little bit about where you actually had this particular episode and how you structured it, because it was all community focused, right?
Yeah, so that episode was filmed at VentureX, and I do want to thank the team at VentureX because prior to us coming to our current home here in downtown Allentown, VentureX was our home for seasons 3 and 4. We had a lot of great interviews there, but we kind of set it up on their first floor. They have an open common area there, so we had like a little stage there, a couple of seats like we have now, very relaxed environment, and we invited several ladies from the community to be a part of an audience. And what I loved about that is just the camaraderie before the episode. You had a lot of people who were getting to know each other,
Yeah.
just talking about things that they were working on, and then being able to share that with the ladies, with the Verona ladies, was really special and really significant.
Definitely shout out to VentureX. They've been amazing. And I remember that day because you talk about community and we talk about it, but sometimes it's good to pause and kind of define. But what is community in a moment like that? It was the before and after conversations, right? It was us being able to relate to and identify with so many things. There were all ethnicities there. It was a good group of women who were right in the audience, but the community that was built there were newcomers, there were people who'd been in the Lehigh Valley for a while. Entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, creatives, right? Hairdressers. And so it was really nice to be able to just have an intimate opportunity to sit down and talk.
And we had one lady who came from an hour and a half away.
That's right.
Remember? We had one person who came, Rachel. She came from an hour and a half away.
That's right.
Because she was a fan of them, of the products, and to see her walk away with the gift basket was,
it was perfect.
Couldn't ask for anything more.
But that's really what this is all about. Somos Lehigh Valley. You're creating opportunity for folks to connect and understand and relate, and by then having a new community that they're introduced to. You've had so many amazing guests. Is there anyone, if you were to pick another?
Do you want me to pick another one?
Well, because
you know what's going to happen is I'm going to have 26 other people ask me like, well, why wasn't my episode special? Like
we said, lukewarm. It ain't no cold seat now.
Yeah. Well, okay. So you're going to force me to think here. As far as other episodes that were really special.
Yeah. And special to you. Let's keep it. It could be anything that just spoke to the heart of AJ.
I think that the episode with Elizabeth Strong was another one.
That was really, yes.
And I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. Elizabeth is an amazing person. She has a bubbly personality. You know, we got along smashingly well. But Elizabeth was very vulnerable with the interview. I mean, she shared things about how she was a young, struggling mom and taking her son to Baltimore, to the Inner Harbor, when she couldn't afford the best hotel.
Yeah.
But she gave him the best experience that she could.
Yeah.
And to see now, years later, how he lives out there and now they can travel to all the great places. And it's just that story of perseverance. I think that people look for those inspirational stories, but many times we're not vulnerable enough to share the origins. You know, we want people to know about our successes, but we don't want people to see our failures. But people learn more from our failures than they do from our successes. So I thought that there was just so much great content in there. And the fact that she was vulnerable enough to share it just made it all the better.
Shout out to Elizabeth Strong at E Strong Beauty.
Yeah.
We love you, Elizabeth.
Amazing.
You are amazing.
And she's doing amazing things.
And amazing things right here in the Lehigh Valley.
Yeah.
All right. So
we have so many cool stories together, too, because it's like on that podcast, we were talking about like, a month ago, we were in the White House together. It's just hilarious. Just hilarious.
You were. Yeah. But that's also the power of the community here. There's so much access and opportunity to do more and to serve more. So, so let's continue on that vulnerability path. I'm sure there were challenges that you had putting the show together. I'm sure there were times where you may have felt like, man, what do we do? You talked about pivoting from Spanish, right, to English. So what are your top 2 moments that you can think of that were really challenging, where you felt like you were on the brink of saying, I don't know?
The first week that we were in VentureX was a huge challenge.
¿Qué pasó?
So we show up to record our first episode on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why we were attracted to VentureX is because they had a really nice conference room set up. In the conference room, they had this, I don't know if you've ever seen it before, it's like an owl. It's one of these multi-camera kind of devices where you sit there and there are multiple angles. So we thought it was so cool. We don't have to bring any equipment
Nothing. You just show up.
We just show up and record our episode. It'll be the coolest thing.
Yeah.
So we show up for the first week to set up our episode, and that device is not there. It's nowhere to be found. We had to call the owner of VentureX and say, like, hey, we were coming in expecting for this device to be here so that we could record this podcast, and it wasn't there. And mind you, in a half hour, I was supposed to be recording an episode with Glenys Diaz and Genesis Ortega. So there was nothing that could be done. Apparently, somebody stole the device. So we're like, okay, so what do we do now?
Yeah.
And shout out to I guess all of us. I mean, we came up with the idea of let's take our iPhones.
Yep.
And let's just record the video on the iPhones, and we figure out a way to edit it, and we go from there. And so the second season, if you go back and watch it on YouTube, it's all recorded on iPhone.
But I remember it was good.
Well, but the thing is, we got creative with it,
Yes,
though.
I love that.
And I think that it speaks to the spirit of the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you have a plan in mind as to how things are supposed to work, and then they don't work that way. So the question is then, what do you do?
Yeah.
And so I think that for many of the businesses that we support, for many of the people that we do workshops for or do sessions for, that's really the question that they're looking to answer is like, okay, when the plan that I had, when it goes sideways, how do I recalibrate and what do I do and how do I patch the holes and how do I get back on track? So just having that resiliency, when that second season, trying new things, expanding and thinking outside of the box. I mean, those are the things that I'm really proudest of. And again, we did it together. It wasn't one person. It's always been a team effort.
Did you ever have your own challenges with doubt? Are the shows good enough? Is it getting enough views? Like, what was going on behind the scenes in AJ's mind? We're talking how many seasons?
5 seasons.
Was there ever a moment or a time of doubt in your own mind?
I think that I always approach the episodes with doubt.
Okay, so just consistent doubt.
Yeah. It's not easy to do a podcast. I mean, when people see it, on their screen, it's easy for them to consume it because it's there, right? But
nice and easy.
Sitting down and having the interview is the easy part. Somebody has to edit that. Somebody has to cut it down. Somebody has to make it look, a certain way.
Yeah.
So you're putting significant time into it. And I think that part of the problem is that you're sitting down there and doing that work. And while you're doing it, you're being critical of yourself because you see all of your flaws.
Yeah.
Right. And so because of the fact that the flaws are on repeat because you're sitting there and you're clipping and you're going back and you're looking at it again, it's constantly in your mind that this is flawed. There's always going to be that doubt of, is this good enough? But what I've learned is do it anyway. There's somebody out there who's going to see it and they're going to have that critical eye and they're going to say, wow, you could have done that to, better, or you could have done this or that.
Yeah.
But then when you share with them, I kind of did this by myself. Then all of a sudden there's a certain amount of grace.
Yeah.
But for the people who are really interested in the content, the presentation really is secondary. They're just happy that you're willing to have that discussion or that conversation and present that material to people.
You know what I love about what you just said? And this is my words, right? So not verbatim. It's almost like you've given doubt a place. So instead of it being all consuming, you're like, you're just going to be here. You'll be here. I know you'll be here. I recognize that, but you're not going to consume and take over this journey or this process. So you're not running from or trying not to doubt. You're just kind of giving it a place, saying, okay, let's keep moving. Let's keep progressing. So I love that because I think when we as creators in any shape or form, creators now is used for social media website, we get it. But just as creators in general, we work so hard there's constant self-doubt, questioning, am I good enough? Do I look good enough? Is this going to be clear enough? All of that. So by the time it gets out, we're like, oh, okay. And then on to the next, right? And then on to the next. And that's why I wanted to make sure we had a chance to talk with you because everything you've gone through to get to this point, and all the things you've had to do and your team has had to do to put this show together for 5 seasons, that's praiseworthy.
Well, here's the thing that people don't realize.
Come on and tell us.
We talk about the 5 years that I've done the podcast, but nobody talks about the 9.5 years that I did internet radio. Because that's where it really all started. Is, I started up my own internet radio station, and I go back and I listen to the very first episodes, because I did a daily 3-hour show with music and interviews for close to 8 years.
Wait, let's just rewind. Daily,
Yeah.
3 hours.
Yep.
Live.
Yep. Live on the internet.
Y'all done that before? Daily, 3 hours.
So I used to work overnight while my kids were young and in school. So
Okay.
I would drop them off in school, right? As soon as I bring them home, as soon as I drop them off, I'd come home, 10 to 1, I would do an internet radio show.
Wow.
Every day.
Wow.
And I recorded it every day. And then 4 o'clock, I would pick them up. I get a nap in between 1 and 4.
I was going to ask, when
But
are you sleeping now?
3 o'clock, I'd pick them up from school. 4 o'clock, I'd start my shift.
Okay.
But the thing is, I go back and I listen to those very first episodes
Yeah.
of that radio station, and I'm like, I sound horrible. But the thing is, I stuck with it.
Yeah.
And there's value in the repetitions, the repetitions, right? So it got to a point where I got really smooth with it. I got really comfortable with it. And it comes to a point where it's like, it's second nature.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so I'm mixing on the table here while I'm talking to people. I'm looking stuff up. I start experimenting with Facebook Live and like, okay, let me put this thing on. And I'm talking about 2017.
Yeah, this is
when
this
people
is a
were
while
still
ago.
not doing, like, I started doing Facebook Live radio before people did Facebook Live radio.
Wow.
So this format of being on a camera, of having an interview, of, having to mix your volumes and all that stuff, it's nothing new because I've done it. But the thing is, I can say that and I can feel that comfort because I have done it. The problem with a lot of people today is that they are unfairly hard on themselves because they think like, okay, I've been doing it for a year.
Right.
I've been doing it for 6 months and I'm not getting it. And all I'm telling you is I've been doing it for 12 years. There's a value in doing the thing every day and showing up every day.
Yeah.
And being consistent and learning from your failures, and then applying it to your next thing so that, as you move along, as you progress, you become, that person that if there's a problem, it doesn't faze you.
There's power in the consistency.
Yeah.
So 12 years.
Yeah.
So what's next for AJ? What's next for you?
Well, as I think about that, the answer is I really don't know. I've had the itch to go back into radio. I was recently in Honduras, and while I was down there, I was having a conversation with someone who was really interested into getting into radio. And I said, you know what? I've had an itch for radio for a while, and one of the things that I wanted to do with radio is take radio to places where radio has never been or where it's not as accessible.
Interesting. Okay.
And so you have places like Honduras, Central America, the Dominican Republic, where radio really has transitioned onto the internet.
Okay.
So you could be in a place like Allentown and reach certain other parts of the world. So
Wow.
maybe there's that. Maybe there's, I don't know. Right now I have my ears open. The other thing I continue to be deeply passionate about is community.
Yeah.
So I recently joined the board of the American Red Cross because I feel that there is a need, to have folks who speak Spanish come on board and help when there are disasters.
Yeah.
And as with many things, I think that it's important to find people that look and sound like you
Yeah.
if you want people to volunteer for that thing. So
Yeah.
I decided to raise my hand for that. And there's a couple other things in the, down the pipe, but we'll get there when we get there.
I love being in the I don't know, because it requires you to really like dust off the faith muscles,
Yep.
right? Not dust off the faith muscles, but I should say I love being in the space of I don't know, because it really does force us to strengthen our faith muscles.
Yeah.
And to be prepared and ready for whatever that next opportunity is. It could be radio, it could be community, it could be a mix of the two, right? So hats off to you for being able to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
I got a couple things, but I don't know.
There's power in no, and
Yeah.
there's power in I don't know too.
Right, there is.
Yeah.
There's a power in what you want to do, and there's a power in not knowing, but knowing what you have to bring to the table. So you've got 12 years of a skill set.
Yeah.
So many more years of building community, right?
Yeah.
And the communities that you're involved in are very diverse. So what I want to talk a little bit about is legacy, because you'd mentioned, and we'll just use the Hispanic Chamber as an example. So previously, those who served in the chamber had been here a long time, had their roots established, and then things are a little bit different now. You have a family, right? And so you have a legacy. What would you hope or want to see the future Latino community here in the Lehigh Valley?
Well, that's an interesting question. So we've got about 10 minutes left, is what I heard from the back there.
Okay, great.
But I'll answer this question. So in terms of the Latino community moving forward, I think it's important to get involved with government.
Interesting.
Genesis Ortega, who I've known for a long time, she every time she sees me, she reminds me, she's like, we are really underrepresented when it comes to government and governance. And I feel that one of the reasons why that is because there are qualified people in the community to lead, but they don't feel the support of the community. A lot of them have tried to run for public office, but have not had the support of a city where 3,000 votes is all you need to be elected mayor or onto city council. That's an issue when about 60,000 or 70,000 people in the community identify as Latino or Hispanic.
Wow.
So how do we get to the point where we support those people who have those new ideas, that are willing to, give back to the community? Because politics is not glorious. You take a lot of arrows, you take a lot of heat, but there are people who want to do it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
I think that we need to start to support those people. And if we start moving in that direction of supporting the right candidates, supporting the qualified candidates that have the passion for the community, I think that's a huge plus. The other thing that I didn't do during my term, but that I hope we get to see, is really bridging our communities. So we have an airport in Allentown. And every time I go to the Board of Governors meeting, I always look for Tom, who heads up the airport, and I say, hey, when are we going to get a flight to Puerto Rico? Because we have a huge Puerto Rican community.
Me too. I know that was in the works at some point, or at least in discussion.
I think we're getting closer. The issue is not the airport. The airport is more than willing to facilitate that.
Yeah.
I think the issue really is finding an airline partner that is willing to make that investment. I think that Allegiant used to be that partner prior to Hurricane Maria.
Yeah, okay.
And they may be reevaluating that, but there's some work that has to be done down in Puerto Rico. But I'd love to see that, because that would not only benefit the Puerto Rican community, it would also benefit the Dominican community, the Venezuelan community, the Mexican community, because all of a sudden you would have a springboard into Latin America. So I think that having that connectivity just really speaks more to us being a community.
Government and governance, would you run for anything ever?
I get that question a lot.
You don't have to give too many details.
I get that question a lot.
I'm sure you do.
I don't think that it's in the cards for me, but I do see people who I'm excited about. I had a coworker who recently announced that she's going to be running for the 7th Congressional District.
Okay.
Who I'm really excited about. I mean, because we had those conversations about why it's important to have Latinos, to have others represent us in government. So I'm cheering her on, from a distance because politics is not my thing. I don't have anything against politicians. They're great people, but I just think that there's a lot of mudslinging that happens in politics.
You got to be built for it.
There's a lot of, and then there's a lot of, you have to build alliances with people. You have to think about the greater good and sometimes sleep with the devil to do it. And that's not in me. So, I said it. Okay. But since we're being transparent and we're running out of time, there is one thing I did want to share. early on, when I was finishing my first year as chair, I remember that Tony Fernandez, who was on the board as my vice chair, she sat down and, she had a conversation with me, and she shared with me like, hey, congrats on your first year. I'm not going to run for vice chair again because I don't feel that you involved me enough. And she gave me several reasons. And you know what? I so respect and I so appreciate the fact that she was willing to give me that criticism.
Yeah.
And the fact that she was really willing to speak her mind and say how she felt.
Yeah, I love that.
Because I felt that it made me better.
We need it.
Yeah, we do.
That's part of community.
And the thing is, unfortunately, so many people can't accept criticism, with that same type of, mentality of like, hey, this is meant to build you up and make you better.
Right.
I think that's one thing that as leaders, many of us need to work on is accepting criticism as a tool to build us up and make us better. Because I don't think that year 2 and 3 would have gone as good as they had gone had it not been because year 1 was difficult and someone was willing to sit down and tell me.
Thank you for your vulnerability there. It's great. I often like to say now, I can't grow if I don't know. Yeah. And that is part of
And I don't
community.
know what I don't know.
And you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So the fact that you, at the closing of this amazing conversation, by the way, chose to honor Miss Tony, I think is amazing.
Yeah.
And congratulations on 5 amazing, wonderful, successful seasons. Congratulations on completing your term successfully as the chair of the board for the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And this is Somos Lehigh Valley. I am honored to have been here to interview the one and only AJ Suero. And I know that we are going to continue to support him. So make sure that you share, like, and follow all things Somos Lehigh Valley, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and of course, AJ Suero.
So there's one thing that we do at the end of every episode.
What you got?
And it wouldn't be an official episode unless you did it.
Let's do it.
So at the end of every episode, we say love, peace, and adobo.
Oh, that's right.
So on 3,
okay,
we're gonna do it.
Okay,
right?
ready? Should we sing it or just say it?
No, we're gonna go into that camera right there in the middle.
Okay, hey, middle camera.
We're gonna say it just for the folks at home. So for the last time as board chair, love, peace, and adobo.